Before you is an animatronic found in the back alley. We are unsure of its origins. Begin audio prompt in 3,
2, 1.
Father, it's me, Michael.
So, Five Nights at Freddy's. You've already seen it. Even if you think you haven't, you most certainly have seen this robot bear and his pals in stores, on YouTube, on Tumblr, if you're one of those people who scours those places, I guess. Five Nights at Freddy's, in case you've been living under a rock for so long you can't move because all the other rocks in the area have been taken by other people, is a game franchise all about you, the security guard working in a pizzeria chain, or in some circumstances, a child in his bedroom, or a security guard in a haunted house, or okay. The main gimmick is that there are haunted robots that have come to kill you. Every game in the series, except for one, has this. The animatronics are part of the Fazbear Entertainment Corporation, which is also heavily tied to a large network of murdered children, blah 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 blah. What matters is that the game series has 8 installments. 8! I didn't just call this part the backstory for no reason. Scott Cawthon, a man who created games heavily inspired by the teachings brought forth from the Bible. None of his games were successes, and many were given a lot of criticism. He looked back at one of his old games, Chipper & Sons Lumber Company, and read one of the criticisms. That being that the beavers looked like creepy animatronics. This criticism gave Scott the inspiration he needed to create his next game, that game being Five Nights at Freddy's. A game based entirely on scary animatronics. He had a Kickstarter which earned $0. He used QuickTeam Fusion, pre-rendered animations and panoramic shots of rooms to create Five Nights at Freddy's. This game became a success the second Markiplier decided to touch it. Five Nights at Freddy's is a story about Mike Schmidt taking a job he found in a newspaper for Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. The job is to work the night shift from 12 to 6 a.m. The catch is that the animatronics on stage want to kill you because they think you're an animatronic without a costume on. You have to survive 5 nights, and if you're up for it, the 6th and 7th nights. All you have to protect you is the knowledge your guide, the phone guy, gives you, the doors, and the power in the building, so be prepared to die a lot. The first game in the series has a relatively small cast, so I'll be able to talk about them and what they do. First off, Mike Schmidt, the night guard. We know almost nothing about him other than that he's stupid enough to stay for 5 nights on this job. There's the phone guy who only speaks to you through messages he left a week prior. He's your guide through the first couple of nights, telling you information you need to know, like to watch Pirates Cove, that the cameras have blind spots, a person was bit on the head in 1987, the usual. He actually dies during the Night 4 call, sad we'll never get to see him again. Now on to our evil animatronic things. First, Freddy Fazbear, the lead singer and star of the show, who actually doesn't activate until night 3, unless all the power goes out. Freddy laughs a lot and will also likely kill you a lot. Bonnie the Bunny, the lead guitarist, is my least favorite character because whenever I play, he sits in front of my door and won't leave. Even if I have the door closed, just go away, you aren't coming in. There's Chica the Chicken, I'm assuming backup vocals, she doesn't have an instrument, she just has a cupcake in her hand, so that's cool. I don't have much to say about Chica. She doesn't attack nearly as much as Bonnie until nights 4 and 5. Foxy the Pirate, whose last name has nothing to do with what animal he is, and is just his profession. Foxy has been limited to Pirates Cove, which during the game is under maintenance, much like Foxy himself. He doesn't like to be watched, so you have to keep an eye on him while playing. Finally, there's Golden Freddy, which is a lifeless golden version of the Freddy suit. Golden Freddy teleports into your room if you see a haunted poster of him on the wall. He will crash your game if you don't flip up your monitor in time, like I was lucky enough to do in this footage. Five Nights at Freddy's has very simple gameplay, which I believe adds to the overall adaptability to newcomers playing the game. Move your mouse over the button, flip up a camera. Click a camera, you get a camera. Press a button, close the door, press the other button, turn on the lights. The gameplay is simple, but good. It adds to the design of the game as well, where the gameplay makes you click frantically to find out where the bunny went. The atmosphere the game creates is wonderful. The hum of a fan, the moaning and groaning from the animatronics, even the sound cues when an animatronic is at the door adds to the creepiness that Scott had intended. The design is amazing, and I wish that certain games could maintain the same level of creepiness all the way through. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the animatronics are haunted by the ghosts of several children who were murdered and stuffed into the suits. That'll be important later on, but I didn't know where to put it because in the first game it's more of an Easter egg than it is a spoiler. Speaking of, spoilers for the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, if you still care about spoilers for that game, I guess. You finish your last night, you get your paycheck, and then BAM! Sixth night. Then you beat that, and then BAM! Custom night. You can alter the difficulty of every animatronic, so you have a fun time with that. I'm gonna say it now. The first Five Nights at Freddy's is a good game. I'm a little surprised that this one game turned into what it did, but I think it was a good first installment. Since I'm reviewing the entire franchise in this two-parter, I'll be doing a different kind of ranking. I'll be ranking all of the games on a chart amongst themselves, then when I'm done with all 8 games, I'll be adding them to the main charts as a franchise and not as individual games. Basically, if you want to know my opinions on these individual games, then pay attention during their respected ranking. Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is the only game on the chart, but it will be joined soon by the next installment. Following the success of the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, Scott decided to put a teaser of the sequel on his official website. The main teaser of a withered Freddy promised that it would be releasing sometime in 2015. Scott then released it in November of 2014. This was probably the best thing for the hype train of Five Nights at Freddy's to keep on going. Scott's ability to release a sequel in just a few months was a big part of the ever-growing Five Nights fandom. The teasers showed off old decrepit animatronics alongside newer models, and when it was released, YouTubers decided to suck the life out of this game, it being a horror game that required strategy to succeed. The game was met with reviews saying that it was better than the first in almost every way. With that being said, time for me to review Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I didn't intend for it to rhyme like that. So the concept of this game, much like the first, is that you're a security guard working at a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. In this game, your name is Jeremy Fitzgerald. Yeah, there's actually a stunt performer with that same name. Interesting bit of trivia. There was actually a baseball player with the same name as Mike Schmidt. Maybe that's why Scott didn't name any of the later protagonists. Anyways, you work in the pizzeria from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's pretty much it. Except there's new animatronics alongside the old ones, all trying to kill you. You also have 3 ways to protect yourself: a costume, head, a music box, and a flashlight. Good luck! Well, we have the phone guy, except he's not the night guard and also not dead. Jeremy Fitzgerald, who is the playable character for nights 1 to 6. There's also Fritz Smith, who is the playable character for the custom night. The old animatronics, 4 out of 5 of whom get tricked by the new Freddy head mechanic. I guess it wasn't useless after all. The 5th one being Foxy, who you flash your light at or he kills you. Guess that wasn't useless either. The new characters are the toy animatronics. Toy Freddy goes into the hallway and gets tricked by the Freddy head. Bonnie and Chica crawl through the vents and also get tricked by the Freddy head. And then there's Balloon Boy, who crawls through the vent and gets tricked by the Freddy head. But if he gets in, he steals your flashlight batteries and doesn't kill you. You may be wondering why there's no Toy Foxy. Well, there was one named Funtime Foxy, not the one from Sister Location, but kids tore Funtime Foxy apart, turning them into what Phone Guy calls the Mangle. Mangle crawls through your vents and blah 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 Freddy head. But if Mangle gets into your office, they sit on the ceiling and kill you after some time passes. There's the Puppet, also called the Marionette, who kills you if the music box isn't playing music. Finally, there's this guy, who at this point in the series was named the Purple Guy. Really original fan community. We've got a phone guy and a purple guy. Now the purple guy sometimes shows up in minigames that happen when you die. When the purple guy makes an appearance, there are dead children around him, so this was when speculation for the game's lore got its first taste of Purple Guy, and he'll be making an appearance in every game after this, or at least a member of his lineage. The cameras work the exact same way as the previous installment, except now there's a ton more of them. There's a button on the prize counter cam that lets you wind a music box. You press control to flash your flashlight down the hall or in the cameras, which doesn't make much sense. I guess all the cameras have flashlights attached to them. There are no doors and the building isn't running on a set amount of power. Instead, the challenge is amped up with the 11 animatronics hunting you down. The death minigames serve their purpose, not stellar gameplay, nor was it intended to be. The game's atmosphere wasn't as frightening as the first, but it was more challenging. That made it even more frustrating when I beat nights 1 to 5 without dying, but then died countless times on night 6. So, you beat night 5? Congrats! Have a star. Here's night 6. Also, the animatronics are like 10 times harder this level. Good luck. Oh, it's 2.5 hours later and you beat it? Well, here's a star. The restaurant's closed. And also, here's the custom night mode. You want that 3rd star and all those other collectible figures and plushies on your desk, don't you? Well, go beat these challenge modes! As much flack as I've given this game, this is easily my favorite. I'm putting it above FNAF 1 for the gameplay and for the story/presentation, because Five Nights at Freddy's 2 builds upon the first, adding some mechanics, expanding the lore, and making it a better game overall. After FNAF 2, Scott was immediately working on the sequel, releasing a trailer and teasers just months after the initial sequel. A glowing eye, text that reads "I'm still here," and if you brighten it up, it had the number 3 in the corner. Another had a box filled with parts from FNAF 2 characters. People began speculating that there was going to be a single animatronic, a hybrid of all the previous ones. Their ideas were soon shattered with the release of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, released in March of 2015. The year is 20XX. 30 years after the original Five Nights at Freddy's, you play as Mr. No-Face, working at Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction. Anyways, there's a guy, you have to keep him from killing you. Oh, by the way, you can shut vents, but your camera system can fail. Better go fix that up before he kills you. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 has Freddy being tossed aside for this guy. Springtrap's his name, and Purple Guy's in his frame. Alright, I couldn't think of anything better. Anyway, Springtrap is the only real animatronic in the building. He can crawl through vents, follow the sound of Balloon Boy, and kill you. Now, there are other characters like the Phantoms being Phantom Freddy, Phantom Chica, Phantom Foxy, Phantom Mangle, Phantom Balloon Boy, and the Phantom Puppet, because 2 Foxies is more marketable than 1 Foxy and 1 Bonnie. These Phantoms are all evil and exist just to jump scare you and mess with your technology. There are other characters, such as the Phone Dude, who disappears after night 2, never to talk to you again. The returning classic, the Phone Guy, who talks about spring-lock suits, the new type of animatronic introduced into this game. We can hear Phone Guy despite him being dead, because Phone Dude doesn't have a problem making a quick buck off of dead workers. I know this is Fazbear Entertainment, the respect for the dead isn't exactly the highest it could be, but oh well, I guess he'll get revenge in the ultimate custom night. You remember all those mechanics from FNAF 2? Yeah? Well, be prepared to throw them out the window, because this game decided that auditory cues were going to be the new mechanic. You could seal the vents through the camera system, because if you can wind a music box through a camera, flash a light at the screen, and have it show up on the other end, and mute a call without even moving, then this is nothing new. The tension in this game took a heavy drop, now that there's only 1 animatronic, some others that only exist to jump scare you, not even kill you, so you become desensitized to it much faster. The sound effects in this game weren't as important as the last 2. The most you could do is tell when Springtrap would go into a vent, which granted is very important, but is sometimes covered up by Mangle screeching or the puppet not letting you open up the monitor, or even by your character hyperventilating. This game decided that it's about time to wrap up some loose ends. In order to wrap up those loose ends, however, you need to perform everything in a very specific order. Some bits getting so convoluted I'm amazed the internet solved it as fast as they did. Basically, the big shock is that the purple guy is Springtrap. After destroying the old animatronics, Purple Guy was confronted by a ghost. The ghost forces Purple Guy to retreat into a spring-locked suit, where he promptly gets his bones shattered and bleeds out. The ghosts fade away, and if you did all the extra minigames, congrats, you get the good ending. If not, try again. This game in particular wasn't nearly as fun as the other two. It being highly regarded as the worst of the pre-FNAF World era, FNAF 3 didn't really focus on making a fun conclusion to the games, and instead just decided to give everyone a happy ending, except for all the kids who died, because they're still dead, and the murderer who's trapped in a rabbit suit for the rest of time. You even burn the restaurant to the ground hoping to get rid of the thing, but it turns out he's still alive. Wah wah. The game is fine. Nothing is technically wrong, but it's not fun at all. At this point, it seemed that Scott was done with the haunted robots in a pizza place gimmick. He gave closure to the souls of the children, the murderer is trapped in a robot forever, and several questions were dodged by Scott. People were desperate for their FNAF fix, when suddenly Scott put up some teasers on scottgames.com showing a demonic Freddy. The words, "the final chapter," were thrown around, making people believe that this was it. This was the conclusion we all were waiting for. Then the trailer came out, and people thought, well, we're a child. Either our parents are demented scientists, or these demonic robots aren't real. I guess we'll find out in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. You're a little boy trapped in a house with nightmarish animatronics. That's pretty much it. No job, no name, no context. You have a birthday party and you're locked in your room. We don't get a newspaper telling us why we're here, we just are. You have a flashlight, 3 doors, and a bed. Good luck. You play as a little boy represented in cutscenes as always crying. This kid's nightmares function similarly to the first game, believe it or not. Foxy's secluded in an area and you need to watch him to prevent him from attacking. Bonnie and Chica come in through the left and right doors respectively. Freddy and his variants are the only ones not to follow this comparison. Freddy has little minions, dubbed by the players as the Freddles, later adapted into the next couple of games. Golden Freddy, now going under the name Fredbear, and his variant, Nightmare, both attack on later nights. Oh yeah, the purple guy makes a cameo. Like I said before, the gameplay is much like the first Five Nights at Freddy's. Your character is actually able to walk around the room. The big twist of the game, you have to listen to the Nightmare's breathing. Which brings up so many questions regarding the fact that these animatronics have to breathe, but forget it, figuring out would just be a nightmare. So this game has minigames, where you play as this crying child counting down to his birthday, while going through incredibly traumatic things. In the main game, it's very simple. Double click to move around the room, move down to either return to the main location or go to the bed. Use control to use your flashlight, and of course, press shift to shut the doors on those hallucinations. The game relies heavily on sound, which means only one thing. The jump scares are so much worse. In between each night, there is a minigame called Fun with Plushtrap, which is a game where you have to flash a light on Plushtrap at the right time so he falls on the X. If you succeed, you get some time on your next night. If not, you get jump scared. The game has a really good atmosphere, where you can hear the footsteps of the animatronics on either side of the room, the very faint breathing sound effects. Basically, this game is a step up from FNAF 3 in every way possible in the game design department. The game shows an animatronic bite some kid's skull like it was a gumball. This is also probably not the bite of 87, as this game actually takes place in 83 according to a dumb Easter egg. So there's a Golden Freddy lookalike named Nightmare Fredbear, and a recolor going by the name Nightmare. They take over the later nights to add to the challenge. But wait, that's not all. Once you're done, the little boy who gets his head crunched dies, and there's a locked chest. FNAF is over. The end. The final chapter ends with a thing mentioned in the first game, but not really because of a dumb Easter egg. Let's see how it ranks. Compared to the previous installment, this game was a success. But compared to the first and second games, I think the story's a little too much of a mess with no real conclusion. So this game is going in between FNAF 1 and FNAF 3 on the personal enjoyment scale. On the other chart, the game has a decent story, albeit an incredibly messy one, great atmosphere, and good gameplay. In the end, I'm gonna have to say that Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was a good installation to the series, but it wasn't a big surprise when Scott said, "Just kidding," and announced. So, now that we've covered the first half of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, I feel like it's time we talk about the elephant animatronic in the room. Five Nights at Freddy's has had quite possibly one of the biggest impacts on the internet culture since Minecraft. I'm serious. The gigantic wave of Let's Plays after the first game, and a new wave of those videos hit with each game's new release, the equally gigantic fan community, creating music, fan animations, fan games, fan art, and even counterfeit merch. Also, have you seen how much merch there is of the Five Nights franchise? There's action figures, plushies, t-shirts, Funko Pops, even more action figures, tiny action figures, socks, hats, those not Lego sets, well-designed plushies, poorly designed plushies, books, gummy pizza, a board game, mugs, lanyards, keychains, scarves, backpacks, even more Funko Pops, pencils, pencil toppers, pizza kits, water bottles, blankets, table covers, birthday party plates, flashlights.